Chapter 47 of the Plum and the Golden Vase. Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait. Mao King is greedy for money and harms his master. Simon violates the law and accepts stolen property. The poem says, "It is a sin to carry a jade, but the trace of the payment is not clear. When the dragon and the snake lose their way, the tiger and the leopard are frightened, temporarily dispatching you and Luo to be anxious. We finally found out that the Han dynasty was peaceful. I have to rely on Lulian's arrows to thank you for success." It is said that in Guangling City, Yangzhou, Zhongnan, there was a Mao member named Mao Qingshu. The family has a lot of money and is very good at poetry and etiquette. He is 40 years old and has no children except one daughter who was not yet married. His wife, Mrs. Li, was suffering from a serious illness and was in bed. She left all the housework to her doting concubine, Mrs. Dao, whose name was Dao Kaier, originally a prostitute. Qingshu married her into the family with 300 taels of silver, took her as a concubine, and doted on her extremely. Suddenly one day, an old monk came to beg for alms at the door. He claimed to be a monk from Baoan Temple in Tokyo, because there was a gold-plated bronze hat in the hall. He wandered here to visit and record good deeds. When Qingshu asked, he was generous and gave 50 taels of silver to the monk. The monk said, "You don't need a lot. Half is enough." Qingshu said, "My master, don't think it's too little. After removing the Buddha statues, the rest can be used for fasting." The monk asked and thanked him, and before leaving, he said to Qingshu, "Under the left eye socket of the member outside, if there is a death energy, there will be a big disaster this year. If you have such a good relationship with me, how can I not tell you in advance what will happen in the future? Don't leave the country." Left with a speech. Half a month later, Qingshu accidentally visited the back garden and saw his family member Mao King whispering to Dao's pavilion. Unexpectedly, Qingshu saw him and involuntarily beat Mao King and vowed to drive him away. Mao King was frightened, and her relatives and neighbors in the central government repeatedly urged her to stay. But she finally hated him. Unexpectedly, there was Qingshu's cousin Huang Mei, who was originally from Yangzhou and was born in Jiren. He worked as a general judge in Kaifeng Prefecture in Tokyo and was also a knowledgeable person. One day, I sent a letter to Qingshu, asking Qingshu to go to Tokyo, one to have fun, and the other to seek his future. Mao Qingshu was overjoyed to receive the letter, because he said to his wife and concubines, "Tokyo is the land of chariots, and has prosperous scenery. I have long wanted to visit, but I can't help it. I don't expect my cousin to write to me now. It really comforts me in my life." His wife, Mrs. Li, then said, "The monk warned you that there was some calamity on your face the day before, and told you not to go out. It's a long way to go to Kyoto. Besides, you have a lot of belongings, and you have left your young daughter and your sick wife at home. I haven't considered what your future will be like. It's better not to do good deeds." Qingshu didn't listen and instead shouted angrily, "It's useless for me to be a man who was born between heaven and earth. He can't travel around the world to see the glory of his country. I have something in my heart and a lot of money in my pocket. So why worry about not getting the fame? My cousin will do good things for me when I go, so don't say anything." So he told his family, Mao King, to pack their luggage and clothes, and packed more boxes of gold and silver, ship cargo, took in Tong and Mao King, and went to Tokyo. He asked his wife and concubines to stay at home and set off on a certain day. It was the end of autumn and the beginning of winter. We boarded the ship from Yangzhou Pier and traveled for several days to Shuzhouhang. But seeing a flash of water, it was very sinister. But see, thousands of miles long floods seemed to be pouring. The islands flowing eastward are like thunder, and the torrential snow waves are scary. Who would not be surprised when a traveler encounters them? Passing by Shanwan, a place named Shaanxi Bay, the Mao members saw it was getting late and ordered the boatmen to moor their boats. It was also the end of the day, so something happened. But unexpectedly, the ship we boarded was a pirate ship. The two boatmen are both evil people. One is named Chen San and the other is Wang Ba. As the saying goes, if you don't care about your family, you can't care about the family ghosts. This Mao King hated the family master deeply and wanted to avenge him. For being scolded a few days ago, he kept silent and said in his heart, "It's better for me to do this and work with two boatmen to kill the family master and push him into the water. I will share all the property in the house. I will kill the sick woman again, and I will bear all this division of property. This is exactly. There are still thorns hidden under the flowers, branches and leaves. So how can one's heart not be poisonous? Mao King then discussed closely with the two boatmen and said, my master's suitcase also has 1,000 taels of gold and silver, 2,000 taels of satin, and a wide range of clothes. If you two can plan this, I would like to help you. Divide this thing equally. Chen San and Wang Ba said with a smile. If you didn't say anything, we would have had this idea for a long time. It was a dark night. Mao Tiangshu and Entong were sleeping in the middle cabin, and Mao King was behind the oar. At nearly 3 o'clock, Mao King deliberately shouted that there was a thief. Mao Tiangshu woke up from his dream and went outside the cabin to take a look. Chen San stabbed him in the lower part of the neck with a sharp knife and pushed him into the waves. When Entong was about to leave, he was knocked into the water by the 81 sap. The three of them opened the box and cage in the cabin and took out a lot of money, silk, gold and silver, as well as satin and clothes, and divided the points equally. The second boatman then said, if I keep this cargo, I must be guilty. You are one of his family members. If you carry this cargo to the market and sell it, no one will believe it. So the second boatman took all the 1,000 taels in the suitcase. The gold, silver, and Mao members' outer clothes were distributed, and they punted back. This Mao King took another boat and took it to Lynching Wharf. After passing the banknotes, he loaded them into the official store outside King County and unloaded them. When he saw the old merchant in Yangzhou, he only said, the owner of the family is on the back boat, so he will come. This Mao King sells goods in the store, no problem. As the saying goes, people are like this, and nature has not yet happened. Poor Mao members are always kind, but once they are harmed by their servants, they will die badly. Even if they don't take the advice of loyal people, most of them will not be able to escape. Unexpectedly, Entong was knocked unconscious by a stick. Although he fell into the water, he survived and floated to Lugong. Suddenly a fishing boat was propped up. There was an old man sitting on the boat, with a bamboo hat on his head and a short rain cap on his body. He heard the sound of crying. When we moved the boat to take a look, we found a boy of 17 or 18 years old, so we hurriedly saved him. When asked about the whole story, it turned out that Entong, the mother-in-law of a Mao member in Yangzhou, was robbed in Hongshang. The fisherman took him off the boat, changed his clothes, gave him food and drink, and asked him, you want to go back, but you want to live here with me? Entong cried, the master is in trouble and his whereabouts are missing. How can he return home? Go. I would like to stay here with my father-in-law. The fisherman said, that's fine. Just stay with me and wait until I find out who the thief is for you. Entong thanked his father-in-law and lived in the Wang family. One day, there is something to do. At the end of the year, the fisherman suddenly took Entong out of the river mouth to sell fish. He happened to see Chen San and Wang Ba drinking on the boat. They were wearing his master's clothes and came ashore to buy fish. Entong recognized it and secretly said to the fisherman, the master's injustice is over. The fisherman said, why don't you file a lawsuit and file a complaint? Entong reported the love instruments to the Shunhazhou garrison. Seeing that there was no proof of stolen goods, the guard refused to accept the complaint. He was also sued to the Tixingyuan. Jia Tixing saw that it was a robber who took people's lives, so he approved the case. On the 14th day of the first lunar month, a man was sent to arrest the official and escort Entong down to retrieve him. When they arrived at Shinhaku, they only brought Chen San and Wang Bahuo to the case and questioned them, seeing that Entong was holding the witness. The second captain didn't have to punish him, so he attacked him one by one. The confession stated, at the time of the attack, his family member Mao King was also involved in the murder of the head of the family and divided the spoils. The three were imprisoned here, and people were sent to interview Mao King and convict them together. Due to the holidays, the officials who had ordered the punishment did not come to the Yamen for 2 days to ask questions. Someone from the Yamen had already secretly reported this matter to Mao King. Mao King panicked, locked the door of the store, and secretly hid in the manager Lisan's house. This Lisan lived next door to Han Dao Guoguo on Lion Street. His wife Lisan's sister-in-law had a very good relationship with Wang Liuer, and often came to Wang Liuer's place to keep him company. When Wang Liuer had nothing to do, he would often go to his house and fight each other lively. Seeing Mao Qing's worried look, Lisan asked why, and said, "It doesn't matter. The Han family next to me is the aunt who sentenced Simon's father, and he is also his family's assistant. We have a good relationship with my family. What's going on? Bai Yi Bai Sui, if I want to keep you safe, I will destroy as many things as possible. Please go over and talk to his family." After hearing this, Mao Qing quickly knelt down and said, "But I'm fine, so I'm grateful. Don't dare forget." So he wrote a note and sealed it with 50 taels of silver and 2 sets of floral satin clothes. Lisan asked his wife to take them and said this to Wang Liuer. Wang Liuer either liked it or not, so he took all the clothes, money and invitations, and waited for Simon King alone, but he didn't come. Towards the west of the 17th, I saw Dian coming from the middle of the street with a felt bag under his arm and riding on Tuku. Wang Liuer was at the door. He called him down and asked, "Where are you going?" Dian said, "Dad and I took a long trip to deliver gifts to Dongping Mansion." Wang Liuer said, "Your father is now, are you here?" Dian said, "Dad and Bai Si went home first." Wang Liuer called in and talked to him like this, and looked at him. Dian said, "Anton, never mind this matter. Don't take it lightly. The 2 boatmen in charge of the Yemen now only have a few taels of silver to pay for it. But I don't care about other accounts." The aunt told him that she would only give me 20 taels of silver when I invite my father to come. "It's up to you and my father." Wang Liuer smiled and said, "You're a glib guy. Don't be evil if you want to eat. It's all over. What's the deal with you? I'd rather we don't do it than you." Dan said, "That's not what they say. A gentleman is not shy to discuss things in person." Wang Liuer immediately prepared some dishes and left Diane to drink. Dan said, "I'm so red-faced after eating. I'm afraid I'll go home and ask my dad. But why will I go back to him?" Wang Liuer said, "What are you afraid of? Just tell me to come here." Dan only ate 1 bowl, just left. Wang Liuer said, "I'm tired of you anyway, so I'm waiting here." Diane kept coming home and handed over felt bags. After waiting, Simon King came out from his sleep and sat in the side room. Dan slowly walked up to him and said, "The little one is back." And Han called to stop the little one and asked Dad to come over quickly. "I have something important to say to Dad." Simon King said, "What are you talking about?" "I understand." After that, Liu Zhuguang came to borrow money. After sending Liu Zhuguang away, Simon King rode a horse, wearing a gauze and a small hat, and asked Dian and Qin Tong to follow him to Wang Liuer's house. He dismounted and went in, and sat down in the bright room. Wang Liuer came out to pay his respects. That day, Han Daoguo stayed in his shop but did not come home. My wife bought a lot of things, and asked Lao Feng to organize them in the kitchen. Seeing Simon King coming, he hurriedly handed over the tea. Simon King told the piano boy, "Send the horse to the house opposite and close the door." The woman did not dare to mention the matter, so she just said, "It's been hard work at my father's house setting up wine all day long. I heard that my brother must. I'm so happy about the marriage." Simon King said, "It's just because Wu Dajin mentioned it, and this is the only girl in his family who doesn't seem to be a good match. It's just a marriage." Wang Liuer said, "It's okay to have a marriage with him. It's just that my father lives in the same place, so I'm embarrassed." Simon King said, "What are you talking about?" One time, his wife said, "I'm just afraid it'll be cold, so please go sit in the room." As she moved into the room, a chair was placed with a fire pot on it, and Simon King sat down. The woman slowly took Mao King's post and showed it to Simon King. She said, "He asked the manager Lisaniang to come over and say to me, this Mao King is a customer in his shop." In this way, he was dragged by the boatmen. "I just hope that his name will not be mentioned. He has prepared some gifts to thank me. I hope Dad will let him go." Simon King read the post and asked. He took it. "How many gifts can I thank you for?" Wang Liuer took out 50 taels of silver from the box and showed it to Simon King, and said, "If it's done tomorrow, I'll give you 2 sets of clothes." Simon King looked at it and said with a smile, "These things, what do you want him to do?" "You don't know. This Mao King is a member of the Mao family in Yangzhou. He killed the family owner on the boat with the boatmen and threw them into the river for money and life. Now that they can't find the body, he came here. One of his servants, and Tong, and the boatmen wanted him to take it away. They were both real criminals and had 2,000 taels in evidence. I have the money with me. Why don't you give it to him quickly? Wang Liuer went to the kitchen and called the girl Jinner to give the original gift to him. So told him. Mao King refused to listen. After hearing what he said, it was like a bucket of water poured against the door and poured down to the soles of his feet. Exactly, the 6 leaves and liver and lungs were opened in shock, and the 3 souls and 7 souls were frightened. He asked Lisan to discuss it and said, I would rather spend all the 2,000 goods and silver, as long as I can save my life. Lisan said, now that Dad has said this, some and a half will definitely not be moved. The 2 officials have to collect 1,000 goods from the rest of the country, and they will get half of it. Mao King said, how about asking for money if I haven't sold the goods? Because he sent Lisan Cao to come and said to Wang Liuer, I want the goods. Please give me 1,000 taels of silver. If you don't want the goods, I hope you will give me another 2 or 3 days, and wait until I tell you the price. After selling the goods, go to my father's house to give the gift. Wang Liuer took the gift card and went back to his room to look at it with Simon King. Simon King said, since he is so good, I asked Yuanji to give him a few days' grace and teach him to come even if he comes with the gift. At that time, Lady Lisani got this word and repaid Mao King, who was filled with joy. When Simon King saw someone in the next room, he didn't dare to sit for a long time. After drinking for a few minutes, he sat back with his wife. When he saw a horse coming to pick him up, he got up and went home. The next day, I went to the Yamen to distribute the money early and didn't ask any questions about it. Mao King asked his agent Lisan to meet with people for him overnight and try the goods out. After 3 days, they were all gone, and they were sold for a total of 1,700 taels of silver. They left the original and Wang Liuer's belongings intact and added 50 taels of silver, and for sets of colored clothes. On the 19th, Mao King collected 1,000 taels of silver, put them in 4 wine jars, and slaughtered another pig. After making an appointment to hold the lantern, he carried it to the head of Ximen Kingmen Gate. Everyone under my command knows that the 4 families of Dian Pinggan, Shetong and Qintong only paid 10 taels of silver. Dian is on Wang Liuer's side, and he wants another 10 taels of silver for the latter. After a while, Simon King came out. Those who were sitting in the rolling shed did not hold the lamps. They came up under the dim moonlight and brought them to his face. Mao King, who was wearing Xingyi, looked at Simon King and kowtowed, saying, this little man has been so favored by his father that it is hard to repay him. With his body broken to pieces, Simon King said, I haven't been able to interrogate this matter of yours yet. Those 2 boatmen, even if you are caught in an official position, you will be charged with it. Since people say that I will spare your life, if I don't accept this gift from you, you won't be worried. I will give you half of it to punish you. You can't stay for a long time, even if you go back at night. Mao King kowtowed and said, I live in Yangzhou City. Simon King asked to bring tea. King ate standing under the pine tree. Kowtowed and said goodbye before going back. He called him back and asked, have you told him the original explanation below? Mao King said, young man, I've already said it's done. Simon King said, now that I've said it, you can go home. Then, Mao King went out and walked to Lisan's house to pack his luggage. He still had 150 taels of silver left. Mao King took out 50 taels and a few bolts of satin, and thanked Lisan and his wife. On the 5th day of the lunar month, he hired a captain to drive the livestock for him and got up to go to Yangzhou. Exactly. Being busy is like a lost dog, and being anxious is like a fish that has slipped through the net. Not to mention that Mao King escaped with his life. The next day, Simon King and Jia Tixing dispersed from the Yamen and rode together. When they reached the entrance of the street, Jia Tixing was about to make a speech to separate the way. Simon King held up his horse whip and said, Sir, if you don't give up, let's talk about it next to the house. He invited Jia Tixing home. Entering the hall, the ceremony was celebrated, and the guests were invited into the rolling booth. They put on their clothes and took tea from left and right. Shetong and Dian set the table and seats. Jia Tixing said, You shouldn't disturb the chief during your free time. Simon King said, That's unreasonable. After a while, 2 young men placed various chickens, hooves, geese, ducks, and fresh fish in square boxes for dinner. After eating first, we took the guys away and brought out all the vegetables and wine. The little golden bell and the silver plate pour the wine slowly. During the drinking session, Simon Qingfeng mentioned Mao King's matter and said, Yesterday, this guy asked a scholar to come and tell the students again and again, and gave some gifts here. The students dare not do it alone. So today we invite the chief to come, discuss with the superior. So he handed the gift card to Jia Tixing. Jia Tixing looked at it and said, The sentence is based on the superior's respect. Simon King said, According to the student, I will only send the thief and the real stolen goods over tomorrow. And there is no need to take this Mao King. The plaintiff boy is safe. The boy took it away. When Mao Tiangshu's body was found, it was not too late to send the gift to the chief. Jia Tixing said, Sir, this is not the case. Fan, why do you want to give up to me? After refusing each other for a long time, Simon King had no choice but to divide the gift between the 2 families and put 500 taels in the food box. Jia Tixing came down from the table, bowed his head and thanked her, saying, Since you are a senior officer, it would be too arrogant for my student to resign. I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. I feel so ashamed. After receiving a few more glasses of wine, he took his leave and stood up. Simon King immediately sent Diane to get the food box and also served it as wine to be carried to Jia Tixing's house. Jia Tixing accepted it at the door, took the reply note, and rewarded Dan with 2 taels of silver and 2 platoon soldiers with fur coins, all of which were nothing to mention. As the saying goes, when the fire is enough, the pig's head is rotten. But when the money is enough, it is time to do business. The punishments of Simon King and Jia T have been decided. The next day, I went to the Yemen to be promoted to the office. The charges, arrests, and investigations were all taken care of by Lisan. The instruments of torture were ranged, and the prisoner asked Chen San and Wing Ba for the reason for interrogation, but they only confessed. They conspired with Mao King, a member of the Yi family. Simon King was furious and ordered everyone around him come use torture with me. You 2 thieves. He has been in the river for many years, under the pretext of loading boats, but he is actually robbing gangs, inviting tourists, and trying to make money. I saw this young man confessing that it was you who killed Mao Tianshubo with a knife. He then hit him with a stick and fell into the water, seeing that his master's clothes were there to prove it. How could you deny it? He brought in Tong up and asked, Who stabbed your master to death? And Tong said, One day at 3 o'clock. Mao King first called out that there was a thief. The young master went out to watch, but was killed by Chen Sanyi with a knife and pushed into the water. The young one was knocked into the water by Wang Bai with a stick. He had to escape with his life. Mao King didn't know his whereabouts. Simon King said, according to what this young man said, It's true. How can you survive? So each person was beaten with 2 sticks and 30 hammers, and his tibia was broken. Killing a pig is also like shouting. Most of the 1,000 taels of stolen goods have been recovered, and the rest has been spent. Here, documents were prepared for the punishment, and the stolen goods were reported to Dongping Mansion. The governor Hu Shiwen met Simon King again and folded the case files, according to the original documents, and accused Chen San and Wang Bao of being robbers and murderers, and Tong Bao was waiting outside. One day, I walked to Tokyo and went to Huangtong's Yemen in Kaifeng Prefecture. He complained, Mao King took away the master's family affairs and made money to be punished in the Yemen. Only his name came out. When will the master's grievances be avenged? Tong Bing heard this, repaired the book all night, sealed it with his complaint, asked him for money, and sent him to the Shandong Procuratorate to surrender. As a result, the trouble of disciplining Mao King started from the beginning. Simon King had done things in the past and was not happy now. There is poetry to prove it. Good and evil always have their cusses, and good and bad fortunes go hand in hand. Never do anything wrong in your life, and don't be surprised if you knock on the door in the middle of the night.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.